Hello and welcome back to the show Food Chain Wars, which is a show where we talk about tactics and strategies on how to climb the value chain when it comes to selling direct to consumer. My name is Brooks with Cart, joined as always with my brother Blaine, CEO of Seven Sons. Blaine, we're starting a new topic today called series called Revenue Cheat Codes. Can you kind of revenue cheat codes? What content are we going to box inside of that series?
Well, I'm thinking of like things that we know we've tried and true strategies, Brooks, that when you do them, it works. It brings revenue in. And so I guess examples in the past, if you followed us along, we've shared the launch strategy. We've shared even simple things like the email follow-up, abandoned cart follow-ups. I mean, these are just things that put them in place, revenue will come in.
Yep. So it's basically you can do something, implement the strategy, and really the distinction is the degree of confidence that we have that it's going to translate to revenue and results.
It's revenue related and high confidence for strategy.
Yep. Okay. So the first revenue cheat code that we're going to be talking about today, that's the whole topic of this episode, is subscriptions. I've been excited to do this episode for a while, Blaine. We've really talked about kind of how do we do this? Because we launched our subscription programs on sevensons.net. We just passed 12 months ago, last October. And there was a lot of excitement that we had for that because there was a ton of effort that went into the build out over 12 months or so that we were building out the technology, getting our business streamlined to do it. And we get a lot of questions, I know, since we've gone live from people who listen to this show, people who use the Cart software on how are things going. So that's the whole idea of this episode. Blaine, I have prepped some questions that are the most common questions I'm hearing from folks about how to do a subscription program. What have the results been? How should I structure this, have the best possible success? And I've also pulled some data into what our results have been, what have been some of the results of a few of our clients who've turned this on since we've made the technology live through Cart as well, because I think it's always helpful to look at stats of some other companies.
Yeah.
But as we dig into this, let's just, for anyone this is kind of a new topic to them when it comes to subscriptions, can you share a little bit about the different types of subscription programs that are out there? Because I know there's a lot. You hear people talk about CSAs. Obviously Amazon has Amazon Prime. There's Netflix. There's a lot of different types of subscriptions out there. What are the different types? And are some more successful than others and would apply to a business that might be listening to this, farm to fork brands?
Yeah, subscriptions is actually a pretty complex thing. I mean, a lot of times you think of it as just subscriptions and you leave it at that. We've had a lot of clients over the years, Brooks, ask us, why doesn't Cart do subscriptions? Like, well, tell us what you mean, because tons of different variations of subscriptions, and every subscription model that you see out there pretty much, Brooks, falls into one of three major categories. And I think it's important that we go through those distinct categories because it frames how you're going to go to market and how you're going to build the program. So, Brooks, the first one, and it's pretty common, is what probably we'd call a curation subscription.
Yep.
Can you think of some examples?
Yeah, so curation subscription, for those of you listening, these are probably what most often I think people think of. So that's ButcherBox. When ButcherBox hit the scene, in order to buy from ButcherBox, you had to sign up for a subscription. And part of the value, how I would define it, the value of a curation subscription is that the subscription itself and the service of the selection of the products, what's being curated, is a value to the customer. So a lot of times this is like, Stitch Fix would be a common example. So that's a co-loathing brand where you sign up on their website and they will send you do a quiz and they learn your style and stuff and they will send you clothes. So you don't have to do shopping anymore. So that's part of the value that they're delivering of the subscription. You don't have to worry about figuring out what do you wear. They send you clothes that are fit your style and that there's a high degree that you will like it. And it's going to come based on a curated frequency. So those are some examples. There's some other ones like Hungry Roots out there. They do something similar where you do a quiz basically to answer some questions about your diet and your household, how many people are you feeding, and then they help kind of curate a selection of products based off of that on a subscription frequency.
There is another element, Brooks, to the curated model that some companies really play off of, and that is the element of surprise. You're going to get something new or just something different, and you really don't know what it's going to be. For example, ButcherBox, Brooks, especially when they first started, they didn't have their custom box option, but you literally signed up for, basically told you can expect this many meals this often. And they figured out what you were going to get, and there was an element of surprise in that, and some people like that. I
think another characteristic of curated subscriptions is they are typically like subscription only or subscription required.
It's the entire business model.
Yeah, like there's no option to just buy one time or buy whatever you want. Like the curation, that is the service.
Yeah. Yep. So that's kind of the first one.
Yep.
I'm going to go to the next one.
So another type, when we think about the three, is going to be membership style subscriptions. I think it's key to touch on too, just as we're going through this, that we did not choose to go the curated subscription route because of that subscription only factor. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But so there's also membership subscriptions. Blaine, examples of those would be like, I mean, technically Amazon Prime is a membership. It's an annual membership. You pay that and you get free delivery and some benefits. So basically you pay the subscription, opt into it, and it unlocks access to some kind of benefit.
Some kind of premium benefit, something you wouldn't have gotten before, but now you get it because of the membership. So that's Amazon Prime. It's like, a lot of times I've heard Amazon Prime, that's the premium model. You can buy from Amazon without Amazon Prime, but you get some exclusive benefit. Now, there's other types of membership programs, Brooks, like Costco or Thrive Market, where you have to have a membership in order to. But by signing up with the membership, you now have access not only to their products and their selection or their store, but there's a built-in benefit that you're getting better prices, for example. That's Thrive Market and Costco for you.
Yeah, so other really common ones out there. I mean, these are probably, I would say, at least for my household, we probably the most common subscription we have is a membership subscription. So like a Netflix membership for media. Typically, media subscriptions are all based off of this. Obviously, you sign up for Netflix, you get access to all of the shows that they have licensings to. But yeah, they're not always characterized by it having to be a subscription only. I mean, I guess a good example would be the Amazon Prime, where theirs is almost like a membership and a rewards program kind of lumped together. The membership unlocks some rewards. Is there any membership subscriptions that you guys have in your household?
Well, yeah, we have Netflix, we have Amazon Prime, and we have Costco membership.
Yeah. Yep. So that's another good example. So the last one, and we basically, again, in our household, we have some of those subscriptions, but that's not how we structured the Seven Sons subscription, which we'll get into in a minute. And it really falls into this last category, which is a replenishment subscription.
Well, an example, I guess, would be Amazon's kind of layering all these things together, but Amazon Subscribe and Save. You can find an item like, I don't know, give it for an example, some kind of a food item, coffee, for example. You can buy it once, or you can opt in, subscribe and save, choose your frequency, and you get a 5% discount. Is how it works with them. Yeah.
So basically staples that you consume a certain amount of with a certain degree of consistency.
Frequency.
So laundry detergent or something like that I know are other products that you can get on repeat on Amazon. So a big characteristic of these, in my opinion, is and this is why one of the biggest reasons why we went this direction with our program, which we'll talk a little bit more how that works, the fact that it's not typically or almost never a requirement for the subscription. So either you can buy milk at the store, detergent on Amazon, or you can subscribe to it to get it on a replenishment. And typically another characteristic of that is that there's usually some sort of incentive to do that. So the subscribe and save program of Amazon.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And I like it because there's kind of a built-in element of convenience. So you're always going to need it. For example, with what we sell, food, you're always going to need it. It fits. I think our business model and what we sell, it's a consumable, Brooks. It fits well into that third category of a replenishment subscription versus these other types of.
This
models.
segues really well into let's further. Obviously, what we did is under the replenishment subscription. Let's break down exactly how does the Seven Sons subscription program work.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead. Talk about first, like the benefits and how it works on the website, like how it's on.
Well, I mean, if you're a customer or a first time visitor to our website, we hint around that there's a subscribe and save program. You can save 5% and get a free item. We hint around on the website about that, but ultimately you don't have to make a decision to do that. So how ours works is, Brooks, you're basically, you can shop like a normal customer right on our website. Start, create an account, start adding items to your cart. And it's not until checkout do we present them after they've done their shopping, made decisions about who we are, done their research. We're not burdening them with a question of, do you want to sign up for a membership? We're not putting a barrier in front of them. Ultimately, our subscribe and save program is an upsell at checkout. They filled their cart and we give them an incentive at checkout to say, hey, do you want to put this on a repetitive schedule. You
Yeah.
want to repeat this order, and that's how simple it is for our program.
So would you, I mean, we talked a lot about this, but for most people listening, I think we would say most of them should go the replenishment subscription route, similar to what we've created. And why?
Yes, because for one thing, we did try the membership model, Brooks.
Yeah,
At Seven Sons,
we did.
and the adoption rate was not great. I know we tried a couple different versions, Brooks. I think we landed at a $49 membership that, I don't know, was pretty confusing. For one thing, we're not a discount brand. We're not trying to say, hey, by signing up to this membership, you're going to get some kind of a discount where you can get access to grass-fed beef far cheaper than anywhere else. Like,
yeah, Seven Sons does not resemble any level of Costco or Thrive Market. So this is definitely a relic in the closet. But yeah, we call that program Tribe.
Tribe, yeah.
Yeah, that was the premise. It was like our fun version, and play on words, fun version of Amazon Prime. And I think another reason why that didn't work well for us is, Amazon Prime, it's easy that you want to replicate what are some of the best e-commerce providers doing out there. But Amazon Prime, it's super simple for a customer of Amazon in their mind to quantify and do the math in their head of, okay, I pay $10 maybe for delivery on average. I buy from Amazon a lot because of their selection. So it's really easy for them to realize that, okay, hey, I'm going to easily pay for the cost of this membership. Where I think a big failure of our Tribe program was, I don't think people would jump on Seven Sons and think, oh, it's super obvious for me for this $50 subscription if I get free delivery. And those are the type of benefits that we tried to package in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't compelling enough.
No, it just didn't work for us. So.
Okay, so basically the replenishment subscription. Well, let's talk a little bit about what have the results been so far, and then dig into a few more of these questions. So I went into.
Well, did we clarify, Brooks, the reason that we landed on? One of the reasons, maybe we're going to get to this, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but one of the main reasons we liked this replenishment model is that we could integrate it into our existing a la carte, buy what you want when you want, a traditional e-commerce model.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what we were already doing, which a lot of people are already doing standard e-commerce.
So that goes back to, okay, helping someone decide what should I do. Yeah. So for most of you listening, and that's why we think, going back to answer that question, yes, you should go the replenishment route. Basically, can you answer the question, do you currently allow your customers to buy and place a one-off order on your website and online store?
Because I think that's the biggest friction and angst in someone's mind. If they're already selling online and they're doing it the traditional model, how the heck do I get a subscription business built into this?
Yeah. Yep.
And
it's really important to think about, and I don't think people actually think about that enough, and that's where we see people make some major mistakes with this. But if you do allow for one-off ordering, like you can't just go do and be ButcherBox. You can't close down the old version of your business and now I'm subscription only and it's all curated.
It's too big of a disruption.
Way too risky to take and put that kind of customer behavior shift, force that onto all of your customers. Right? I would call that e-commerce suicide. Yeah, same word. But yeah, that's an important distinction. But if your answer to that question is a little bit different, I think a good example of this, of helping people decide what should they do, is our Fresh Egg Co brand. So Blaine, we just launched that, and I mean, this is actually a little bit of a hybrid. How would you define what we did with Fresh Egg Co?
Well, it is ultimately it's a replenishment, but it's also a required subscription. So so it is a hybrid in that fact. It is replenishment, but because we started it from scratch. Out of the gate, we could decide, okay, what type of program do we want this to be in? Yes. We opted in that this is such a simple business. I mean, do you want eggs or not? Choose your quantity and subscribe or you don't subscribe.
Yeah, so that one was easy. So you go to fresheggo.com. There's no like subscribe and save type incentive because it's part of it. We kind of curated, and we actually kind of, even the messaging for that brand is based off of a little bit of like a service model. Like think about, everyone knows that having backyard hens or chickens like grandma used to is the best way to get eggs. So we're like telling people, hey, we're taking that and we're just allowing you to get that same benefit without you actually having to keep the eggs or the hens in your backyard, feed them and keep them alive. So we're like, it's a service getting delivered through that subscription. So it felt like it made more sense to us because we're doing it from scratch. We didn't allow people to place one-off orders for them. Brand new brand. We could launch it with that required subscription requirement. So, but most of you aren't going to be able to answer that question and do it that way. So that's where the replenishment route, and a big distinction too, I think, before we even get into the data, because it's been working really well for us. We're really happy with the results. I think when we launched Blaine in October, we were taking, of last year, we were taking bets on like, okay, is this going to work well? We put a ton of effort into it. And I think our highest, best goal was to say, let's get to 200 subscribers within the month. That would be a success to me, moment of truth. We actually ended that with 800 subscribers. So almost 3 to 4 times the results that we were seeing. But I think let's just dig into some of the core distinctions that you think that led into those types of results, because I think a lot of people do come to that understanding. If I'm doing one-off ordering and I have an online store, I can't just force people to subscription only. So a very common approach we see people take is that they will actually kind of do both. They'll do a curated subscription program, something that kind of resembles that, along with along with one-off ordering on their website. So like I've seen a lot of websites where you go to this when I was doing the research, where I think even if you go to porterroad.com, you'll hit their online store, and you'll see right on their menu, they have 2 call to actions. One is shop the store or look at subscription boxes. And like right away, they're presenting the customer with, we call it decision fatigue, because as a brand new visitor, if you're not familiar with Porter Road, like that's just too early for them to even make a good decision. Well, what path is right for me at that point? Where instead of keeping those side by side on our website, if you go to sevensons.net, there's still just one call to action. It's shop now.
Yeah.
And the way we design this is that as they go and they shop on that store, they add items to that cart. As that cart pops out and they add items to it, we actually give them a little preview that, hey, you can actually put this order on repeat every month and you'll save 5%. So they can actually do that while they're shopping, and it makes the decision fall into the flow of what they're already doing. They're choosing one-off items. It's not a curation. We're not now saying, hey, check out this subscription offer where it's a curated program and there's this new thing that they have to learn.
Yeah, because automatically when they look at, you offer a subscription option too, the first thing they're going to do is, a bunch of questions are going to pop up in their mind. Well, how does it work? How often can I choose what I get? Am I locked into something? What's my frequency? And those aren't just questions we want to start plaguing customers with within the first, minute of being on our website. We want them to be able to research the products. We want to integrate into their flow of buying and not present objections, because honestly, Brooks, there's a lot of consumers out there that have an objection to subscription models.
Yeah, well, it requires the customer to take a risk on you. So they have to get rewarded for that. So that's like the main question people are going to have, in addition to all those other questions that you mentioned. But we answer that in a really nice and friendly way. So it just says they're shopping. It's obvious that they can choose whatever items they want. They're building that cart. And, well, okay, we give them this option to subscribe. And as we give them that option, we answer that question, right? Well, what's in it for me? Well, you save 5%. And actually, when they tap to opt in, we actually quantify the dollar value that 5% means based on their cart. And we also throw in a free item there as well. So we're making this offer as compelling as it can be. So I think it's a good time, Blaine, to segue into the data on, okay, what have the results been? Because I've been sharing that we've been happy with what we're seeing, but we now have been we've been live for 12 months. So one of the key things we knew we wanted to look at to actually know if we're changing customer behavior is look at this metric that we've watched for a long time called 12-month LTV. Can you just go through, define, what do we mean by 12-month LTV?
Yeah, well, we're looking at how much an average customer with us spends within a 12-month period, Brooks, ultimately. So how much is a customer worth within 12 months?
And this is kind of tricky to dig into this data. We actually do this based on cohorts. So when someone subscribes but places their first order on the website, we'll look at like everyone within a month who placed their first time order, and we will follow them for 12 months afterwards and see how much did they spend with us.
So every month is a cohort for us. So we're tracking cohorts by the month. Now that's a little more complicated.
But it's a great metric to be able to see, okay, what are some changes that you're making when you're marketing? How does that play out for how much someone will spend with you over a long time period? Because the more you can get someone to spend with you in a year, the more profitable you're going to be to serve every customer. So because there's a certain amount of overhead marketing cost that goes into getting a customer. So that's a number that we've watched for a long time. We've done a lot of different things to try to increase that number and drive it ahead.
Could you just explain, if someone listening, whether they're using GraceCard or not, but they have an online business, what's a simple way for them to figure their 12-month LTV?
Well, the simple way is to not do cohorts. So a simple way would be to just look at, okay, do like a 12-month. I would think most tools could do this. GraceCard certainly can. But you look at a 12-month window to see what are all my customers that have at least have an order count of 1 or more in 12 months. So that means they've placed an order in 12 months.
They have activity. They have some kind of order activity in 12 months. How many customers have had order activity?
Then what you do is you combine that with another report that says, well, what was your your revenue for that 12 months period, so that you divide the revenue by the number of active customers, and that will give you an equivalent 12-month value of a customer. So that's a really easy way to look at this number, and you should be looking at that consistently.
Yeah, so our thought process was, okay, we have to have a single source of truth within 12 months after launching Subscribe and Save to tell ourselves, hey, we've invested 6 figures in the development of this platform.
Yeah.
Was it worth it or not?
And this was a number we chose to look at because even if we had a bunch of people who just opted into it right away, we're kind of concerned, like, well, we're giving them a pretty strong savings to opt into it, but we're also giving them ultimate flexibility. They can cancel anytime they want. They can skip the order if the freezer's full. And we felt like all that was important to, again, just try to overcome those objections and, increase the number of people who will opt into it and not churn. But we're also like, well, will it actually increase at the end of the day how much people will spend with us? And that's what this number tells us.
The fear is you're just going to have the same customers buying the same amount, but now they're just getting some
5%
free items. I mean, that was a genuine fear that we had. It's like we have to measure LTV. Are they spending more with us? And are we making it easier to do business with us more often?
Before we launched Subscribe and Save, our LTV, 12-month LTV, was $584 per customer. And actually, we're pretty proud of that. We've been doing a lot of things to try to get that number up. And since we've gone live 12 months afterwards, our 12-month LTV is $773. So to get it to move, like if you could, Blaine,
it's a huge difference.
If we can pick out a strategy that we think might move at $100, we know that $100 is a huge, that makes a huge difference when you think about all the active customers that we have flowing through our system every single month. So to get it to go from $584, so almost a $200 jump, that was far more than I had expected to get from a program like this. And of course, there's other things we're doing, but this has been the anchor key strategy that's been new this year that we've rolled out to our customers. That's clearly has changed buying behavior. So a few other really fun stats, Blaine, just to look at real quick that tell the similar story. If you look at all of our active customers in a 12-month window,
at Seven Sons,
35% of those customers have opted into our subscription program, which we're happy with that level of adoption. But what's really cool is when you layer that on top of our revenue and you see where that's coming from, over 70% of our revenue is coming from our subscription customers.
I remember, Brooks, when we were planning Subscribe and Save, we threw out a goal that half of our revenue would come from Subscribe and Save or from subscription customers. And we thought that was a lofty goal. For 12 months later to have that at 70% is exciting. And it goes back to either the 80-20 rule, or in this case, call it the 70-30 rule. Most of your revenue will come from that small majority of loyal customers. And the way Subscribe and Save is built, it rewards those loyal customers and nobody else.
Yeah.
That's what we want it to do.
Yep. Yeah, and if you're not rewarding your loyal customers, you're just giving an opportunity out there for someone else to have some sort of program out there to keep customers coming. Starbucks has their app and the rewards points. It's only there to make sure that they come back to Starbucks and not the other local coffee shop that's around.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the right time to talk about it, Brooks, but ultimately, Subscribe and Save does make our customers' lives easier, but we have to convince them to opt into it and try it. And that's what the incentives do, Brooks. I don't think that our customers spend more with us because we're giving a discount.
Well,
what do you think? Do you think it's a discount that actually drives more sales, or is it a discount that opts them into a brand new behavior of how they do business with us?
Yeah, so this ties into one of the questions I wrote down, which I hear a lot is, subscription sounds like a decent amount of work, and we're going to go and talk about, okay, what are the things you got to do right, things you have to think about, but it sounds like a decent amount of work. Can I just do like a rewards program, like that Starbucks program where there's a point system or some other kind of system to incentivize a loyalty? Will that get me similar results to what we're seeing on here? And I don't think so, because basically what we're doing, the subscription program, I wrote it down because I like the way it came out, but basically a subscription program, what that does, it has built-in required use. Because what we're going to be doing is when someone subscribes, if they're on a 4-week frequency, every 4 weeks, they're going to get a notification from us, an email and text message that says, hey, your order with Seven Sons is coming up. Go ahead, log into your account, make any changes that you would like to. And it's coming. It doesn't require the customer to, people are reactive. People are not proactive people. And, there's lots going on in their life. So it's silly to think that you don't want to leave it to their proactive ability to come back to your brand. Like,
it's easy to think, Brooks, especially as farms, we do so much work to raise this incredible food. It's easy to think that we should be the center of our customers' lives.
Yeah.
And reality is we're not.
Well, and we live in a world where there's so much that's competing for people's attentions. Someone might be inspired to, they watched Kiss the Ground, so now they're inspired to go buy and find a local farm to buy from. That was a genuine thing that they wanted to, and new behavior they wanted to start to do. But if it's hard for them, that they could easily, life gets busy and that just falls off the wagon. We're here, if they subscribe, it's a reason for us to basically re-engage with the customer and order coming and remind them, yes, okay, hey, look, and it's a chance for them to get reminded, oh yeah, I do have that subscription. Yes, I do want to keep that order coming, versus forgetting to go back and place that order and putting the work on the customer to do that.
Yeah, we're not necessarily incentivizing more sales and for them to make a purchase. We're incentivizing them to opt into a new behavior. I think that's a very important distinction that this Subscribe and Save program is built around.
That's how I would define it. Rewards programs and all the other loyalty programs out there require the customer to do the work to actually get the benefit. Where subscriptions, we do all of the work to make their lives as easy as possible and give them the reward of being loyal.
I know people that are listening may not know exactly how Subscribe and Save works, but I think, Brooks, one of the biggest values that I see in the program is that every, if customer opts in to get their order repeated every 4 weeks, Brooks, that means we have a reason to send them a text message every 4 weeks, automated. We don't have to think about it. And believe me, they're going to open it and answer it. And, thank you. Okay, I'm glad I got reminded. I want to make some changes to it, or I may want to skip my order. It's just an incredibly good reason to engage that customer via SMS.
Yeah.
Every whatever frequency.
So it's actually a good time. Like, let's get into the structure of how this works and maybe some mistakes to avoid, because there's definitely ways you can roll this out where you might not get the results that we're seeing here. And we talked about the data, and there's definitely some of these numbers I went through. I pulled some of the numbers, Blaine, on a couple of other of our clients too, who are seeing very similar results. Like we have Lilac Hedge, who has 15% of their customers opted in, 51% of their revenue though is coming from subscriptions. Grandview Farm, someone else who opted into using Subscribe and Save early when we had it as a beta program. 19% of their customers have the adoption, but 48% of the revenue is coming through. So we're seeing a similar story come out, but you definitely don't want to go into this with a level of naivety of, we put the premise out there of revenue cheat code, but I'm going to backtrack from that from a little bit. Is you got to think this through. You got to do it right. Our degree of confidence that done right, that you can see results like this, are very high, but it's very, very easy to get this wrong. And that's why we talked about the different types of subscription programs are out there. And that's kind of step one. Make sure you choose the right program for you. There's CSAs and those types of programs that are out there too, who have structures that we did things quite a bit different than I think what's typical out there. So let's talk a little bit about in your mind, what are some of the biggest mistakes to avoid when it comes to maybe common temptations that people might have when it comes to building out a subscription program that would really severely impact the adoption results and the 12-month lifetime value results that we're seeing?
Man, where do you go for this? Well, I guess the most typical thing that I think of, Brooks, is just the one-sided offer where you're really not getting. I think the temptation is to just put it out there to see if customers will just automatically on their own opt into repeating their order without the incentive. I think that's a huge temptation.
Yeah, if you're doing the replenishment program, you basically figure out how to make the incentive work. So that's another thing I know I hear often. Well, how do you protect, someone who's listening to this might think, well, my net profit is 5% or 10% at the end of the year. How can I afford another 5% on top of this? So what would be your answer to that?
Well, for one thing, you can't think of it as just 5% off the equivalent of 5% of the sale coming off of your bottom line, Brooks, because what we just talked about, we've shown and given an example, and we went through the numbers, this increases your revenue.
Yeah.
So you have to factor that into your 12-month economic model that, okay, I'm giving a 5% discount, but what about that additional revenue that's coming in? That additional revenue, Brooks, comes in so much more profitable than your existing revenue because you're leveraging your same overheads. It's just efficient revenue. Yeah, and you're not spending time and money to go get new customers to get new revenue. This revenue is coming from your existing customers, so it completely changes the economics when you're figuring in that 5% discount. So don't feel like, My profit end of the year is this. Now I've got to take 5% away from that. I'm almost break even. That's absolutely the wrong way to look at it. Do not look at it that way.
Yeah, I think a good term is like revenue quality. The quality of this revenue coming from your subscription program, it's just higher when you think about the. And again, your loyal customers are your best customers. They're usually the easiest ones to work with. They're not the problemsome customers most of the time. So the revenue quality of rewarding your loyal people, that is going to translate to the bottom line at the end of the day. So I think another key distinction when it comes to, okay, yes, you're doing replenishment subscription, you have to make sure you put an offer out there, is the making that offer super simple. I mean, I think it's really can be tempting sometimes when people do this. And I think the CSA world sometimes can do this, where people will have people buy like $1,000 CSA, and then that redeems credit that then they can use on their account. And it is a little bit too confusing. Another thing I'll see a lot is excluding certain items from the offer.
Yeah, I refer to this as spoiling the deal. Like you put out this deal in their mind because, that sounds pretty cool. And then, the fine print, you just spoil it because, except all of our most popular products and the things that you really, really want. We're going to exclude the savings from those.
Yeah. So like, the 8th beef bundle, like you already put a steep discount out there. So you're saying, oh, wow, there's no way I can take another 5% on that. It is well worth it to plan ahead. Be thoughtful with all of this. If you have to restructure a few certain items that are outliers out there, I mean, I would advocate that the average of what this is going to do to increase overall revenue, it's not going to be the end of the world either way, but that's fine. Go ahead. Analyze certain products. If you think you have a too steep of a discount on them, make a few slight adjustments. I mean, but you have to factor in the increased profit, the increased revenue that's going to come from this as well.
Yeah, I mean, we did make some merchandising changes, Brooks, because we had a lot of steep discounts on bulk purchasing that anyone had access to. And so what we decided to do is let's take away some of those bulk standard discounts that we're just always offering. Let's take some of those away so that we can funnel more of that discounting into one place. Subscribe and Save, loyalty. It's just deciding where we were going to give the discount. We decided to consolidate more of that discount, Brooks, to Subscribe and Save. So you may consider, if you're a Grace Cart client, rolling out Subscribe and Save, consider some of the other discounts you offer, and maybe consider moving away from some of those, or at least making them less of an incentive so that you can afford to have more incentive pointed in the direction of Subscribe and Save.
So I think the offer is huge in order to getting that right gets you the adoption that you want to see. So the number of people that'll actually say, okay, yes, I'll try this. Another thing that's really big in getting the adoption is overcoming objections that customers might have when it comes to, there's risks that they have to take in order to opt in. So objections they might have, what's my commitment level? Can I cancel? Can I skip it if my freezer's too full? Yeah. And it can be really tempting to not allow that level of flexibility, because you want to make sure that you're planning inventory, and it makes your life easier, obviously, from a supply chain standpoint, if you could lock your customer into all of that. But the impact that's going to have on your adoption will be severe.
For example, I've heard some clients say, but they can cancel it.
Yeah.
What do you say to that, Brooks?
Yeah. Yes, they can, and I'm not going to sign up for a subscription that I
mean, who's going to sign up for a subscription that you can't cancel pretty much whenever you need to cancel it? I mean, if your customer needs to cancel your subscription, that means you need to let them cancel it, and that would be in my mind, that's not putting the customer first.
Yeah, the thing is, when your freezer's full, your customer's freezer's full, their freezer's full. Yeah. And if they've got to go to the inconvenience of figuring out what to do, move some to, grandma's house or someone else, who could use some of this product, that's an impression, a negative impression of your brand, that when it comes time to renew the subscription, those are the people that you see fall off. This just wasn't worth it to me. And you also have to remember there's a distinction here that I think can be made for especially brands that if you're selling a frozen product, you've got no excuse for this, because the perishability aspect is not nearly as severe as someone who's selling produce or something that's going to go bad. Like there is a different structure where the degree of supply chain and supply demand planning, it means a lot more for people where the perishability is a super short window there.
Yeah. So what you just said to answer an objection is giving the customer the flexibility that they need. One, the frequency, because we offer every week, every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, or every 8 weeks.
Yep, and every 8. Yep.
And that's a lot of different frequencies for us to think about and plan around, Brooks. I mean, it'd be a lot simpler if we just only offered the option of monthly for Seven Sons. But we offer the different frequencies simply to be able to, for customers to be able to have those choices.
Yeah. Yep. So, and like you got to think about too, when someone's subscribing, it also helps, if you can see that 8-week option for someone who's not really, they're nervous about the subscription thing, not sure if they'll go through this much every single month. That 8-week option, I think, is a really nice kind of like almost salvage offer. Like, you know what, I'll try this for every 8 weeks because the commitment doesn't feel nearly as severe. So overcome these objections. And then I think it's really important to make sure that you speak to them on your website, speak to them at checkout. We actually, if you're using Gracecart for subscriptions, you get custom messaging where you can customize your checkout display to actually sell and overcome these objections while someone's getting that offer to upsell into a subscription.
I know for me, Brooks, whenever I consider a subscription, I think about the fact that why remember, or how will I know when my next subscription is coming? Because what if I do want to skip it? What if I do want to cancel? Or what if I need to change something on the order? So that's one thing I just added to our checkout page, Brooks, where we have this subscribe and save checkout upsell option, is I added the words that says you will get an SMS before your next order ships. Because that is a big point of anxiety, I think, for customers.
I think this can take us we can segue well into, okay, you get the adoption. These are the things that help you get people to opt in. But okay, how do you make sure that we provide them a good enough experience that that churn factor, that whole factor of people can cancel? How do we minimize the likelihood that someone's going to be inspired to go to the website and cancel that order? And I think a big part of this really comes down to that the ordering experience at the end of the day, making sure that you're anticipating anywhere that a customer might have a poor experience, and you're addressing that up front. I mean, one of the big ones for me that I know we put a lot of effort thinking through the technology of Gracecart is inventory. So especially if you're a farm to fork brand, there is a seasonal nature when it comes to raising product with your production cycles. So we wanted to make sure that we could try to minimize the likelihood that we would lose product and that a product would go out of stock for someone who's subscribed to it. Because once they've subscribed, technically we're kind of perpetually making that commitment to make it available. So we do allow for when someone subscribes to an order and that next order repeats a month later, say they will get that SMS text notification that you're talking about that basically says, hey, great news, your order's coming up. You have a few days to log in and make any changes that you would like anytime. So we're also giving that high degree of flexibility, so we're not locking anyone into certain items, which I think will also help your adoption. That's something to speak at too at checkout.
Complete customization.
But through that text, and when they go to the website, and they also get an email paired with that as well, it'll actually show them what items are out of stock. So that's actually one important step. You need to make sure when you do have inventory problems or oversights and you can't fulfill on all those commitments you make, and make sure that you have a good system to make your customer aware of that and that they have a chance to do something about it. But overall, you actually want to just try to minimize that from happening as much as possible. I mean, I know, can't remember exactly what SKUs there were, but we audited pretty heavily all of our product selection. If there were certain items that we knew that just went out of stock a lot
Constantly,
and they weren't driving very much revenue, we pulled those from our offering because we were so committed to the opportunity that we thought this was. We wanted to give it the best possible swing we could. And even at that time, we didn't know if it was going to work, but that's another thing is you got to make sure that if you're taking something this big, that's going to be this amount of work to you and can be this, impactful for your business, make sure you give it the best possible swing up front.
We did, Brooks. We had to ask the question, are we bought in to subscribe and save? And we had to make some tough changes.
Yeah, there's some sacred cows. There were some items I like personally that we offered.
Some cuts that we just decided to stop because we knew they would never be compatible with a consistent subscribe and save.
Yeah, because if they're consistently going in and out of stock, it just doesn't work well with subscriptions. And every time your customer doesn't get the item that they wanted, that's just another negative impression that, okay, maybe I will cancel. It's always a reason you're given that opportunity for a customer to go and
so cancel. You're saying you manage inventory well, because you don't want items falling off the order. For one thing, Brooks, if items are constantly falling off the order and the customer's not going in and adding something new, you're essentially reducing your average order value.
Yeah.
Automatically.
And this is where some people might be, tempted to go back to the drawing board. Well, maybe I should try that curated subscription program because it allows me to, basically, I get the choice. What's the term?
I get to offload the work to the customer.
Butcher's choice or farmer's choice subscription. I think that's how it goes, to where you get to make all those decisions. And all that is true. And technically, we built the technology for Gracecart where you could do a program like that. But again, if you're already offering one-off ordering, that creates that decision fatigue up front, and we've gone through all the reasons why you shouldn't do that. Another tool that we built into this and we thought was core to the technology is we actually have we call it the out of stock threshold. It's a feature that's built into the program, but it allows us, Blaine, to be able to basically put in a threshold for every item that says, hey, once like say bacon gets below 100 units that are available, it'll make it say sold out on our website. So that way brand new customers or someone who's not a subscriber, they can't buy it, but it'll still allow that 100 units of inventory to be reserved for subscription orders as they generate. So it's basically a way where you can prioritize inventory for your loyal customers. And it's another benefit that you could, even if you wanted to, communicate as a benefit of the subscription program. You get first access to all of our products, and you just put that threshold wherever you think it needs to be to try to increase your likelihood and your chances of being able to make sure that you make these products available for
we use that a lot. We use that a lot. I mean, it's basically deciding if we're going to have a product that's low on stock, we will short customers who aren't subscribed and save customers. We will reserve it for subscribe and save customers.
So the other big aspect of all this is just that communication cadence when it comes to trying to minimize the likelihood that someone would go churn. Is to just make sure that they are in control. So, we built with the technology a customized subscription portal, where they get those notifications, they go back to the website, they can make all those changes, they can change their frequency, and they can cancel at any point.
Yeah, or skip. They can skip at any point.
Yeah, that's an important.
Notice we did not build the technology, Brooks, to be able to pause the subscription.
Yeah, there's an intentional nature to that. And I think there's this is where I'll backtrack a little bit. You always want to put the customer first, make sure you think through what are these objections and stuff, but there is a healthy level of friction you can put. You have to be strategic with it, but there's a healthy level of friction you can put on certain places to try to minimize, again, pausing. That just allows the customer to put it on pause. Again, now you're back to relying on their proactiveness to come back and unpause the orders. That's all the things we're trying to get away. So we give them the ability to skip if freezer's full. That overcomes that main objection of, look, the freezer's full. We're not going to convince you. Yes, you can skip it, and you can skip it as many times as you want. The last thing we do is when someone does go to cancel, they can do that from their portal. We make sure that we actually have a little bit of friction through that process too. So as soon as they click, okay, hey, I want to cancel, we have a little pop-up that actually asks them, well, do you just want to skip instead? Because you got to remember, people are navigating through a website. They don't know all the features that are there and stuff, and they may not know they can do that.
They just know they don't want their next order. That's all they know.
Yep. So it asks them if they want to skip instead. It reminds them that they'll lose their 5% discount and the free item if that's something that you do with the subscription program. And then if they say, yes, I want to cancel, they have to provide a reason for canceling, which is basically we've built in the ability that you're going to get, we call it cancellation insights and feedback. And that allows you to take that real-time feedback and further figure out what are the objections that your customers are going to have that you can speak to. Maybe there's some messaging changes you can make to the front end of the website. And that's kind of how you can create that full loop to continue to optimize. And Blaine, we're making changes with our subscription program. We continue to do that based on this feedback that we're getting.
Well, and just make sure we're putting all things on the table here, Brooks. One other thing that we have tried and we're going to do it again, maybe continue it once a year, but we've basically 1 month out of the year, we put a deal out there that says if you become a subscribe and save customer, you can lock in 2 free items with all of your orders for the lifetime of your subscription. So that means if someone cancels their subscription, they just don't have the ability to restart their subscription with 2 free items. So that has to be, Brooks. I mean, the reason we did that was to drive loyalty to the subscription.
These are special things that you can do just to add fuel.
Up the ante.
Yeah, add fuel to the whole thing. Again, once we got that level of confidence that this is a core part of our business, we're becoming a subscription program. That was something we put together last January. We're going to do it again this January, where for the whole month you get that chance to get the double freebie. So that can be a tool to help drive adoption
and loyalty.
Yeah, on the backside, because if they cancel, they lose that double freebie when they come back. So it gives them, it actually gives a penalty for canceling, a small one, but it does give that certain level of penalty when they go to cancel versus just saying, oh, I'll cancel and I can come back. It doesn't really matter.
Well, Brooks, just to summarize, I know both of us have done research on subscriptions. And specifically the churn factor, what makes people actually cancel subscriptions. And what I've read, Brooks, is the number one reason overall is this customers feeling out of control or having a lack of flexibility. That is the number one reason, which is why we've built so many tools around that whole idea of ultimate customization, flexibility, and control.
So we're swinging hard for this. Obviously, it's a core component of our business, core component of our future. Is there any other things that you want to make sure, final pieces of advice that you want to make sure that anyone here leaves knowing, or even just when it comes to next steps? I know we've talked about a lot. There is a little bit of work here. There's a little bit of thinking that you need to go through. What's some good next steps for somebody to get started?
Well, Brooks, the beauty of this thing is that we've already built it, right? I mean, we've done so much legwork already, and we're sharing the results. And really, Brooks, to get this started, I mean, I wish we a year ago just had the ability to turn it on. Go into if you're a Grace Cart customer, just go on, turn it on, set up your schedule.
It is something to where, there's a few steps there, but you press play. I think the biggest thing that you need to do and prep for this is to analyze, hey, what are those areas that you need to make a few business changes? There might be some there. For a lot of you, there's probably nothing. So you can just go ahead and figure out what that incentive is that you want to offer. Press play and go from there. So we have very detailed, if you're using GraceCart, you'd like to try this out with the software, a very detailed documentation on how to get started. If there's any questions or concerns that we didn't address on this call, you can definitely reach out to our team. And there's tools that go into this. And some of those, little lesser known features you want to make sure that you're aware of when it comes to making sure you can prioritize your inventory for your subscription customers. It's all there and well documented with some instructions, but our team's there for help as you have questions as you get through this.
Yeah, lastly, Brooks, I feel like this is just something that you need to be sold out on if you're going to do it.
Yeah. Don't try to, haphazard this. If you want the easy route, then maybe the easy route is to, put together some rewards type program. But remember, when it comes to rewarding loyalty, you don't want a lot of different things going on and a lot of options out there. You don't want to do that rewards points system on top of a membership, tribe program. Like, there was a reason when we went to this subscribe and save, we shut down our tribe program, and that was a lot of work.
That was hard to do.
It was really hard to do, and especially the bigger you are. So if you're a little bit more of a scaled operation, listen to this. It's much harder to make those pivots and take something away from your customer. It's always easy to add something in. So if you're concerned about certain aspects, start small. Maybe your subscribe and save program doesn't start with a free item because you feel like you need to really analyze your margin and stuff. You can always, it's easier to add that stuff in later. It's easier to do the double freebie once you see the impact that this program is having for you later. So you can get started on a small level, but the big thing is to make sure that you choose the right anchor loyalty program for your business that's going to have the highest impact, because you don't want a lot of those out there because they'll end up just confusing your customer, too much going on, and then you're stacking discounts on top of stuff, and then that makes margins weird and stuff and hard to plan for too.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe if you got value from the episode. Go ahead and leave us a review. That always makes Blaine I's day whenever we get the review count up. So go ahead, head over to foodchainwars.com. There's also a feature on that website where you can leave us a voicemail if you have a question or an idea for a topic that we could talk about in the future. We'd love to hear from you. So go leave us a voice message, and we'll talk soon.